What if the world's most sophisticated intelligence tools weren't being used for national security, but to, say, secure a corporate takeover? What if the skills honed to hunt terrorists were now being used to hunt for a business rival's deepest secrets? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a new and incredibly powerful global player, the corporate spy. We've all seen the movies, right? The shadowy figures from the CIA or Britain's MI6. But there's a question we almost never ask. What happens when these spies quit? I mean, when they finally walk away from a career spent in the shadows, where does all that training, a lifetime of deception, surveillance, and human infiltration, actually go? Well, they don't just hang it up and retire. They go private. And listen, this isn't some small-time career change for a few agents. We're talking about an industry-wide migration of power. It's a shift that's moving the world's most sensitive tradecraft and influential networks out of government vaults and right into the hands of private corporations and the wealthiest people on the planet. So let's start with Section 1, Spies for Hire, because this isn't just a new job for ex-spooks, it's the birth of a brand new multi-billion-dollar industry, a global, completely unregulated market where the product being sold is intelligence itself. You see, for decades, this culture of secrecy and lifelong loyalty kept government spies right where they were. But now, sources from inside the intelligence community are talking about a wave of departures. Experienced veteran officers are leaving public service, and they are not walking away empty-handed. They are taking a priceless, taxpayer-funded asset with them. Decades of classified know-how, operational experience, and a global network of high-level contacts. It's a brain drain for sure, but the stakes here aren't just corporate. They're global. Section 2, the shadow industry. All that talent, all that knowledge, it had to go somewhere, right? Well, it did. It's fueled the explosive growth of this powerful and almost completely unregulated new sector that operates right at the intersection of intelligence and high finance. So just how big are we talking? Well, get this. In a single recent year, the U.S. government outsourced $56 billion of its intelligence work to private contractors. And let's be really clear about this. That isn't the industry's total revenue from everyone. That's just what the American taxpayer paid them. To put that into perspective, $56 billion is more than the entire annual GDP of a country like Croatia. It's just a staggering amount of money being funneled from the public treasury into private hands. And that $56 billion? It represents a whopping 70% of the entire U.S. intelligence budget for that year. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. What this really means is that the state's monopoly on intelligence is, well, it's over. The majority of America's spycraft, its analysis, its data collection, its on-the-ground operations, is now in the hands of for-profit companies. As former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice pointed out, the result is that many businesses have been creating their own mini CIAs. And look, this isn't just about hiring better security guards or running a few background checks. This is about building full-blown internal espionage units to gain a decisive and often unbeatable advantage in court cases, hostile takeovers, and boardroom battles. Now, this new global industry is dominated by a handful of elite, very discreet firms. You've got companies like Kroll, which people often call the private CIA, and Hawkloyd, a firm founded by former MI6 officers operating out of London. These places are staffed by veterans from the world's top agencies. MI6, CIA, Mossad. They, along with firms like Israel's Black Cube, have become the go-to intelligence brokers for huge corporations, hedge funds, oligarchs, and sometimes even for governments themselves. This all creates two very different kinds of spies, and they're playing by two completely different sets of rules. On one side, you have your government agent. Their mission is national security, and in theory at least, they answer to Congress or Parliament. But on the other side, you have the private spy. They serve one thing and one thing only, the client's objective. Their oversight? It's often nothing more than a contract and an NDA. And their operations exist in a deep legal and ethical gray zone. Section 3, the Corporate Spies Toolkit. So what are clients actually buying for millions of dollars? When a hedge fund or a law firm brings in one of these elite agencies, what does that private intelligence work actually look like on the ground? The ultimate product, the thing they're all selling, is something called decision advantage. It's really the holy grail of intelligence work, whether it's public or private. It just means having better, secret knowledge that lets you outmaneuver your opponent at every single turn. Think about it. In a multi-billion-dollar deal, a nasty legal battle, or a fight for control of a company, That kind of certainty isn't just valuable, it's literally priceless. Their services really run the gamut, from things that sound pretty noble to things that are, well, deeply ambiguous. On one hand, yeah, they do asset tracing, finding billions hidden offshore by dictators. On the other, they do due diligence for corporate mergers, uncover corruption, and offer a service that's politely called reputation management, a term that can hide some very, very dark practices designed to silence critics and bury inconvenient truths. So how do they get the information that no one else can touch? By using classic and often controversial spycraft. It all starts with human intelligence, or HUMINT. That's the art of cultivating and manipulating people to give up secrets. From there, it moves to undercover operatives, targeted surveillance, both physical and digital, and when they need to, outright impersonation to fool a target. These are the tools of a nation-state, now deployed for a fee. Section 4. Scandal and consequence. Look, with this much power, this much money, and almost zero oversight, abuse isn't just possible, it's inevitable. And it took one massive scandal to expose just how dark this world could really get. The Harvey Weinstein scandal didn't just expose a predator, it dragged the entire private intelligence industry kicking and screaming into the light, and it revealed the tactics used by the rich and powerful to protect themselves. Weinstein's goal was crystal clear. He hired intelligence firms, including the Israeli-based company Black Cube, with a direct and chilling mission: investigate and, supposedly, discredit his accusers. The point was never to find the truth. The point was to weaponize the tools of intelligence to intimidate, harass, and ultimately silence victims. To go after actress Rose McGowan, a Black Cube operative was sent in. This agent went deep undercover, creating a totally fake identity as a women's rights activist. She then spent months methodically gaining McGowan's trust. Once she was in, she secretly recorded their private conversations, hunting for any little piece of information that could be twisted and used to ruin her credibility. It was a textbook deception op, but it wasn't deployed against a foreign enemy. It was deployed against a victim. The Weinstein case really laid bare the central danger of this whole industry. With almost no regulatory oversight, that line between a legitimate investigation and an unethical, often illegal intrusion, it just vanishes. There are no warrants, no judges, no congressional committees. There's just the client's checkbook and their objectives. Section 5. The new rules of power. So what does this all mean for the financial markets, for our legal system, for society itself? What are the new rules of power in a world where espionage is for sale? Well, the first and most fundamental rule is this: the state's monopoly on high-level operational intelligence is over. For centuries, the ability to conduct sophisticated espionage was something only a nation-state could do. That era has ended. And what that means is that intelligence has been transformed. It's now a commodity. It's no longer just a tool of the state, used for the abstract idea of national security. It is now a private service for the ultra-rich, a weapon that can be bought to protect wealth, neutralize critics, win lawsuits, and gain a crushing advantage over anyone who gets in the way. And that leaves us with the fundamental question for our time. When this decision advantage can be bought by the highest bidder, what does that mean for justice, for privacy, for any kind of a level playing field? What happens to the rest of us when the truth belongs to whoever can afford to uncover it, or to bury it?
So while markets rise and fall, systems like this quietly move billions behind the scenes, hidden from the public, hidden from scrutiny, and sometimes hidden from the law itself. Because in global finance, the most powerful forces are rarely the most visible. And this is just one of the systems used by the unseen elite.